Iran was never called Persia, not by its own people. That name was coined by a Greek historian who took one southwestern province and stamped it across an empire stretching from Egypt to India. The civilization's true name has been carved into a cliff face since 522 BC. So how did an outsider's mistake end up on every map, every treaty, and every textbook in the Western world? The Greek word for Persia, Persis, first appeared in the 5th century BCE, carried into the historical record by Herodotus. He wrote that the people called themselves Persians because they came from a land known as Parsa, a modest province on the empire's southwestern edge. Herodotus, like other Greek writers, took this single name and applied it to an empire stretching from the Nile to the Indus. His habit was not unique. Greek ethnographers often use the name of a leading tribe or province to label entire civilizations. In this case, Parsa, rendered as Persis, became the term for the whole Achaemenid world in Greek, and later in Latin as Persia. The process was neither accidental nor neutral. Greek speakers met the Persians first as adversaries and neighbors, and their language shaped how the empire would be remembered. The Greek tongue could not easily reproduce the sounds of Old Persian, so Parsa became Persis, with the sibilant ending that marked it as a place. Over time, this exonym, an outsider's name for a people or country, spread far beyond the Aegean. It entered Roman texts, then filtered into the languages of Europe, and finally settled on the maps and in the treaties of colonial powers. The name stuck not because it was accurate, but because it was convenient and familiar to those who wielded the pen. To understand the scale of this distortion, imagine if the United States were known worldwide as Virginia, simply because a foreign historian first encountered the colony and decided it stood for the whole. That is what happened to Iran. The label Persia was never a faithful translation of the civilization's own name, but a provincial tag that became global through Greek literary authority. Herodotus's choice, echoed by Xenophon, Ctesias, and later writers, set in motion a naming chain that would shape Western perceptions for over 2,000 years. This is the first link in a long chain of misnaming, a single region's identity magnified and mistaken for an entire world. The consequences of that choice would echo through centuries of diplomacy, scholarship, and cultural memory, leaving the true name of the land, one its people had used for generations, hidden in plain sight. High above the plain at Behistun, Darius I left a message carved in stone in 522 BCE, visible for miles, and written in 3 ancient languages. The Old Persian lines do not call the empire Persia. Instead, Darius names himself King of the Aryans, Arya, while listing Parsa as just one among the many provinces he ruled. The Elamite and Babylonian versions echo this pattern, referring to the king's people as Aryan and the land as Parsa, never blurring the two into a single national label. Nowhere in this monumental inscription does the word Aran appear. That term, meaning land of the Aryans, would only surface centuries later under Sasanian kings. What the Behistun text proves is not the early use of Aran as a state name, but the careful way the Achaemenid court distinguished between ethnic, dynastic, and geographic identities. Arya for the people, Parsa for the royal house and homeland. The scope of Darius's empire stretched from Egypt to India, a world of dozens of languages and peoples. Yet, in the heart of its bureaucracy, the empire's own records always made clear that Parsa was a province, not a synonym for the whole. Administrative tablets from Persepolis, written in Elamite, refer to land grants and tax registers for the satrapy of Parsa, while other regions, Media, Babylonia, Egypt, retain their distinct names. The imperial system did not erase these differences. It cataloged them, preserving a mosaic of identities under a single authority who called himself King of Kings. After Alexander's conquest in 330 BCE, The machinery of government changed hands, but the Greek language, now the official tongue of empire, began to overwrite local distinctions. The Seleucid rulers, inheriting both territory and paperwork, institutionalized the Greek exonym Persis in their coinage and decrees. Seleucid coins minted in Asia Minor bear legends naming the king as ruler of the Persians, even when struck far from the old heartland of Pars. In administrative texts, Persis became shorthand for the entire realm, a habit that would echo through centuries of foreign maps and treaties. The original Achaemenid model, careful, plural, and internally precise, gave way to a single, convenient label in Greek. Bureaucratic inertia did the rest. What had been a provincial name in royal inscriptions became, through generations of paperwork, the global name of a civilization. The record is clear. The people of the plateau called themselves Aryan, then Iranian. It was outsiders, armed with pens and seals, who made Persia the world's default. In 651 CE, Arab armies conquered the Iranian plateau, ending Sasanian rule. Yet even as the old dynasty fell, the people held fast to their own name and memory. Arabic chroniclers like al-Tabari called the southwest Fars, but in Persian poetry and local histories, the name Iran quietly endured. Over centuries, language and legend sheltered a sense of unity that outlasted shifting rulers. Around the year 1000, Ferdowsi completed the Shahnameh, weaving together Iran's myths and histories in over 50,000 lines. He called the land by its ancient name, casting its heroes as guardians of a homeland distinct from any single province. The opening lines proclaim, "This land of Iran is the land of heroes." With each retelling, the idea of Iran as a continuous, unified realm grew stronger, shaping Persian identity. When the Safavids rose in 1501, Shah Ismail I declared himself Shahanshah-e-Iran, King of Kings of Iran, on royal decrees and coins. The Safavids made Twelver Schism the state religion, setting Iran apart from its Sunni neighbors and rooting the new state in Persian culture and Shi'i faith. The name Iran endured, carried forward by poets and kings alike. By the dawn of the 19th century, European powers had locked the name Persia into the machinery of international law and cartography. The Treaty of Gulistan, signed in 1801 between Russia and the Qajar state, refers to the country as Persia throughout its Russian, French, and English versions. The Persian language text, by contrast, uses the term Iran. The pattern repeats in the Treaty of Turkmenchay of 1828, where every foreign language clause, from border demarcations to indemnity payments, addresses the Shah as ruler of Persia. This was not a matter of translation, but of bureaucratic habit. British and French diplomats, seeking clarity in their archives, standardized the exonym on every map and legal document. Atlases printed in London and Paris during the 19th century labeled the plateau Persia in bold type, and they labeled the body of water the Persian Gulf, a name that would become another arena of contest. The inertia of these institutions ran deep. Passports, trade licenses, and school textbooks across Europe and Russia described the land and its people as Persian, even as the term Iran persisted within the country's own records. The effect was cumulative. Each new treaty, each new map, reinforced the fiction that Persia was the true and only name. By the early 20th century, the exonym had become so entrenched in Western bureaucracy that even scholars and journalists rarely questioned its origins. For diplomats and mapmakers, Persia was not just a word. It was a legal and geographic fact, repeated until it seemed beyond dispute. The indigenous name, Iran, remained hidden in plain sight, its authority diminished by the weight of foreign paperwork. On March 21, 1935, Reza Shah issued a formal circular to every foreign embassy in Tehran. The message was clear. From this day forward, The country's name in all international documents would be Iran. The circular stated in both Persian and English that this was the name used by the people throughout their own history. For diplomats accustomed to Persia, the announcement landed with surprise. British and American cables from the spring of 1935 record confusion and, at times, quiet resistance. Some foreign ministries hesitated, noting that the word Persia had become second nature in their files and press rooms. The London Times and the New York Times debated the switch openly, with editorials questioning whether the world could or should adjust to a name that had always been there, hidden behind a colonial translation. Yet the correction was not an invention. It drew on the deep roots of Iran as the land of the Aryans, a term found in royal inscriptions, poetry, and the everyday speech of its people. In Tehran's newspapers, the name change was framed as a restoration of dignity, not a marketing campaign. Reza Shah's government pointed to the ancient lineage of the word, distancing it from the racial ideologies then circulating in Europe. For Iranians, Iran was a name of continuity, and for outsiders, it was a challenge to habits built over centuries. Despite the diplomatic shift, the old label lingered in the West. Persian lived on in the names of carpets, cats, and cuisine, a residue of the outsider's gaze. But the political reality had changed. With one stroke of the pen, Reza Shah reclaimed the country's name for its people, closing a chapter in the long history of exonyms and restoring an identity that had endured beneath the surface for generations. Today, every atlas and embassy recognizes the name Iran. Yet the persistence of outsider labels reminds us how easily history, like identity, can be rewritten from afar. Names are not mere words. They are claims to memory and meaning. The record, at last, belongs to those who wrote it first.